Now, because I'm up here in God's country, it generally means that I have to drive all the way down south where it's full of speed cameras and traffic for any car show that I want to go to. However, this time the show has came to me, which is nice. I get to have a sleep in. You might have heard of the fella who's hosting it before as well, an up-and-comer on YouTube called Yanni. Yep, that's right, the Yiannimize boss turned semi-pro car wow drag racer is hosting Yiannimize live here at Croft Circuit, my local racetrack. And the best part is, the track is open as well, so we're going to see all kinds of supercars blasting around because some of the best exotic machinery the Northeast has to offer has come out to play, all in the name of charity. So if you missed the show, or if you just want to see if you're in the video if you were there, then go grab yourself a cuppa, get sat down, and let's get into it. Now then, so, last video I was down at 𝙁𝘼𝙊𝙆 show at Mallory Park, Shedfest. We're at the complete opposite end of the spectrum now. We're at a supercar show right close to home, hosted by Yiannimize. Still a few sheds here, not gonna lie, but it is mainly a supercar show and it's a charity event as well. So there's a lot of people out on track. But I'm gonna take you around everyone, all the cars that I've turned out to exhibit on the strip, and I'll take you around all of the supercars that we've got behind these bushes as well, and all the trade stands so you can see what you're missing out on if you didn't turn up here. So, let's go have a look. So yeah, this is a freshly named event. It was called Smiles for Miles for the last 2 years, but this year it's been rebranded as Yiannimize Live. I'd imagine it's because it'll bring a few more people at the event whacking this geezer's mush all over the place. I very nearly didn't make it. It turns out Honda Acti coolant lines are fairly awkward to bleed, so I had a bit of an overheating issue the day before the show, after changing the timing belt. But I did eventually get it sorted, and it's a good job I did because there were some extremely expensive Beetles at this event that I didn't want to miss. ARG Coatings kindly squeezed me onto their stand, and Gaz, who runs the show, had built this go-kart to pop in the back of the truck. He'd even painted the frame the same colour as my BBS's, so we matched. What a guy. If you want anything powder coating in and around the Darlington area, I'll pop a link to his socials down in the description. So after watching a few cars on track, it was time to see what was on display on the strip, where us normal folk were allowed to park. Starting off with the Scoobies, because there's always a ton of them that turn up. This sunrise yellow STI Spec C was unreal, and although it's probably the least popular shaped Impreza ever, it was a belter. If I spin around, there was a 𝙁𝙊𝙆, which are pretty damn rare here in the UK, and on the back of this BRZ was one of my old projects. I really wanted a DuckTales spoiler on my GT86 back in the day, so I decided to have one made, but it annoyed me how I didn't quite get the lines to match up on the body. Money definitely not very well spent. Speaking of money pits, here's a BRZ with a 1U Z swap. Anyone with a GT86 or BRZ will know how much of a ball ache a V8 swap is in one of these, and after talking to the new owner, he could only agree it was a massive pain in the arse. Rob's 𝙁𝘼𝙊𝙆 Impreza was next to that. It's just one of those cars that's never going to be finished, but just take a look at that rear diffuser and wing. If that doesn't get you any grip, I don't know what will. These old Integras are starting to grow on me a bit. I still prefer a DC5, but I bet these are just as fun to rag about on track. And onto something a little bit more different now. If you could enlighten me as to what kind of build this Defender would be called and used for, that would be great, because I have absolutely no clue. I'm guessing it's used for some kind of off-roading competition, but you don't have to be a genius to guess why I thought that. Nice to see something a little bit different turn up to a show like this though, so fair play. Right, so you know when you see a Subaru with a Scooby-Doo plush toy in the passenger seat? Yeah? Well, I found something 100 times worse than that. Each to their own, I guess, but I'm gonna have to go rinse my eyes out now. Okay, now. Moving on from one Ford owner to another, but this time he is a man of fine taste. An M Sport Fiesta ST. I actually saw this car last month at Shedfest, so I was a bit surprised to see it at the other end of the country, but we will take it. Very nice. Look, I know I've just slated a guy with minions all over his car, so this might sound a little bit hypocritical, but I absolutely loved this max power build Corsa. I missed the car scene back when this was a thing because, well, I wasn't born, so I think that's a valid excuse. But building your own car to be a proper one-off rather than just sticking a few plastic bits on like the financed boys do nowadays, it just seems way more fun, even if some people do think that this style of car should have gone extinct back in the 90s. I mean, look at that, he's got a fucking PlayStation 1 in the back. Class. Moving on to this wagon, and I spy an intercooler and dolphin style exhaust, so I bet she shifts. And further up from that was the cleanest looking 309 GTI I think I've ever seen. It's even got the optional sunroof, a proper 80s French motor. They are a weird shape though, aren't they, for a two-door? Anyway, staying with the older crowd, this TR6 was lovely, and it is the closest paint match I have seen to the trucks before as well. If it was a metallic finish, it is probably as close as I'm going to be able to get. And across from that was a white R32 Skyline with the obligatory Japanese bumper melt. It was at this point I had to head over to the hill to get a bit of footage of our good friend Pete, who was breaking his track day virginity in the Mustang before we head to the Nürburgring next month, and I thought he was properly giving it some until I realised I was actually filming the wrong car. Whoops. All of the cars here on track today were doing passenger rides to raise money for charity, so it's a win-win for everybody involved. Anyway, once they'd finished the session, I headed back down to the strip and continued wandering around some of the more interesting things that had turned up, including the most unpopular Ford Mustang of all time. Of course though, I'm in the minority that actually quite like them, even if the exhaust does look like Robocop's flaccid penis. There was another DC2, and this one was sporting the better front end in my opinion, and they look so cool in championship white, especially with the white rims too. Beyond this Citroen C1 with its much needed downforce was my dream car, an S2 Exige. These are only going to keep rising in value because, well, they've stopped making them now, but hopefully I'll have the balls and the funds to buy one day. Nectar man. On the final stretch down to the Supercars, there was all sorts parked up. I mean, it did kind of feel like it was an end performance meet at some points. There was every hot Hyundai in the UK here by the looks of it. But I'm not complaining, they are all great cars, and anyone who disagrees definitely hasn't driven one. We had not one, but two Atoms turn up. It's always a pleasure seeing one of these out and about. And I finally saw my first G81 M3 in person. Quality looking car from the back, but the front, still a no from me. Your dad would have had a heart attack over this Nova, no doubt. I wonder if anyone's told him you can steal it by turning the hazard light upside down. And here we have an S1 Elise Type R. That's right, K-swap. Nothing is safe. And funnily enough, it wasn't the only K-swapped Lotus here either. Moving on down to what is currently my favourite generation of Nissan GTR, the R33. And speaking of GTRs, how about this for a replica? A job very well done, if I do say so myself. Finally though, we've hit the section which most of the general public have came here to have a look at, the supercars. Now these ones down here are the ones that have been or are about to go out on the track, and there was all sorts you could jump in. From McLarens to Porsches, this Dakar 911 was laying down a lot of rubber through the first couple of turns on the track with its chunky tyres. And not all of them were from this decade either. There was a stunning GT2 that had turned up. Shall we have a quick game of guess how much a tail light gasket costs on a 911? Because someone needs one. But leaving the sea of Porsches behind for a second, there was an F8 Tributo and an extremely leery NSX. How that didn't get pulled off the track for noise is beyond me. It was like a jet taking off. Squeezed in between literally millions of pounds of supercars was a sweet little Fiesta. But unfortunately, we've got to return to the exotic stuff because, well, I mean, that's kind of what the show's all about. I am a big fan of McLarens. Not sure if I'd have one given the reputation, but I can see why people would put up with the problems when they look that good. Bit like Megan Fox, I'd imagine. Amazing to jump in and out of every now and again, but when things go wrong, you can bet it's going to be expensive. From one yellow car to another, this 4C was immaculate. I just love them things. And so was this R35 GTR, which was absolutely covered in carbon. Here we have an X5M with the optional cock-shaped spokes, which accurately describe the driver actually, after revving it for 25 minutes straight the pleb. And opposite the stand where the truck was a group that I never thought I'd see in my lifetime. The Tesla Owners Club. The atmosphere was electric. Shocking banter, sorry. Now, because I'd been told off by the Abarth owners for not filming any of their cars at a car show about 5 years ago, I made sure I went around all of them in great detail today. There were some right showstoppers, and directly opposite those guys were Lusso Detailing, who'd brought a couple of hot porkers with them, as well as letting Mr. Luke from Wamban on the stand with Tom's Aston. The purple wrap is still growing on me. I preferred it in white. Sorry. Virtue was showcasing the new Minis, which look god-awful, but thankfully they had also brought an old M1, which is from an era when BMW knew how to make good-looking cars. Not like now, eh? There were more trade stands with more supercars on, but there was one that did stand out to me, this beautiful STO. I didn't realise they actually made nice looking ones without neon green tashes. Why anyone would spec that over this is beyond me. Well, I do know why, it's for clicks on social media, isn't it? But if you're well off enough to be able to afford one, I guess you can do whatever you like. Finally though, we arrived at the Fast Beetles, and just when you think it couldn't get much more expensive, bam! Have a Veyron. I mean, yeah, who doesn't like a GT3 RS's backside? But that is just different gravy. I managed to get a quick sneak peek around the new 𝙁𝘆𝙊𝙆, however you pronounce it. I mean, yeah, it looks pretty much the same as every other Lambo from the past 15 years. Personally, if I had the money, I'd much rather save myself 400 grand and have a stupidly impractical toy like this, but that's just me. I found a GR Yaris without a GR number plate. Result. And accompanying it in this area was a 488 Pista, which are meant to be bonkers to drive. And just up from that was another one of Tom's cars, the GT2 RS, with some sexy Manthey parts fitted. We didn't just have supercars in this little compound, there was Callum's FDRX7, which won car of the show I think, and an old Sierra which might be lacking in performance compared to these cars around it, but it's definitely of a similar value nowadays. Somehow. Around the corner was an even rarer Ford in the shape of a Shelby Mustang, but if you're after a fast Ford, they do not get much quicker than this, the new GT. Although the dimensions are significantly larger than the original GT40, let me tell you, they are still pretty hard to get in and out of, and you can see pretty much naff all when you're in there. And that's about it. Hopefully next year we get this event at Croft again. It is really nice to have one of this scale on my doorstep, and there's still lots of space for it to grow even bigger at this venue. So hopefully videos like this will encourage you to come down and visit, because the bigger crowds these events pull, the more likely we are to get some more big events up here. I'm going to leave you with an onboard lap of the track from my point of view in an R35 GTR now, but if you enjoyed the video, remember to give it a like, comment down below what your car of the show would have been, and you can always subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. Thanks for watching, I've been lookship, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!